All right, so we're here with Mason Wren. I've known Mason since 2004 when I coached him at Riverwood High School for 2 seasons. Recently coached with Mason for 4 years at Woodstock. He became the head coach in 2022, and since then has had nothing but success since his takeover. His teams have reached an Elite Eight and two Sweet 16s. His teams earned a 36-22 record in 3 seasons, winning 62% of their games. He has mentored all county and all region players of the year. Woodstock earned their first team all state player, and just this year had 2 players earn all state again. He has also coached the program's first USA Lacrosse All American, and just this past season, Mason was a finalist for Cherokee County School District Coach of the Year. Mason recently took the Harrison High School job and will no doubt continue to keep them as one of the best programs in the state of Georgia. Mason, thanks for being here, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First thing, what's it like? What's the difference between being a head coach and being an assistant coach?
Being a head coach is so much worse. It's just a lot more responsibility, and just the buck stops with you on everything.
Right.
As an assistant, you get to focus more on the more fun parts of the game. Game planning, watching film, relationships with the kids. And being a head coach, you have to do all of that as well as all the other stuff. All the paperwork and dealing with parents and hiring and firing coaches and everything. It's just a whole lot more. But I enjoy it, so it makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So Mason, what things helped you prepare to make that jump from an assistant coach to a head coach?
I mean, in reality, nothing is really ever going to prepare you, to be a head coach. There's nothing you can, do or experience. It's going to be all right, if you check this box, you're going to be ready to be a head coach. Experience helps. I was an assistant for 6 years. So, going through the grind of coaching JV for all those years, being an assistant on varsity, really kind of exposes you to all the different parts of being a head coach. And then the last couple of years, when Pete and I were together, I think the one kind of missing piece was the booster club board side of it that a lot of new coaches don't really get to experience. So Pete did a good job of welcoming me into some board meetings and kind of seeing that process, because that's just a whole new part of the job that you just have, most coaches haven't experienced. And then you have these 4 or 5 adults that are asking these questions on processes and this and that, and you're shoot, what do I do? So there's nothing that truly prepared me over more so than just experience, just going through the grind of being an assistant coach. The summer, the club scene, the travel scene was huge as well. Being able to work with different coaches in the area, being able to, work in different systems, different clubs. That was a huge part from, my X's and O's part of the job. But once you kind of get the nod to be a head coach, it's really just trial by fire. It's just kind of just figuring out, and you got to have a good temperament, and you got to be able to work with people, having a relationship with people. My first 2 years as a head coach at Woodstock, we had some challenges for sure, with parents and some booster issues, but you just have to be level-headed and work through that. And so it hasn't been an easy change from assistant to head coach, and nothing really prepares you, but
and I'll say, you being able to, and you taking on the responsibility of being the JV coach, along with being a varsity coach, I don't think there's enough coaches out there, assistant coaches, that will want to do that. You know, and we've talked a lot of times, like coaches will want to go be assistants at, you know, XYZ because they've have some kind of history about them, and it like that makes it a little bit easier and whatnot. Not to say that they're not good coaches, but like you being able to say, okay, I'm going to be the head JV coach. I'm going to coach the offense on varsity, and obviously you had a lot of more responsibilities with that as well. But that I think helps and prepares you. Like when he's coaching in the morning at 6 a.m. so we can do practice after school with just the varsity. I mean, that just that helps out tremendously. And then I think that also gives you a little bit of taste of responsibility and understanding of I'm not just coaching. I actually am got responsibility with it.
And when I started, I coached hockey for going on almost 30 years now, and it's when I first started, I had no experience coaching at all, and I was like, hey, you're the head varsity hockey coach. And I'm like, okay, great. What do I do?
Right.
So it's I understand what you mean when you just like kind of figure it out as you go.
Right. And being like the JV coach at Woodstock that doesn't up to that point hadn't had a ton of success. Right. Wasn't like a huge name. That's a place where you really are going to learn how to coach, because it's not just you have the greatest athletes out there. They're just going to do what you ask the first time. Like you really got to understand. All right, like kids didn't understand when I coached it or said it that way. Like I got to try something different, and so it that made me so much. Made me the coach I am, like going through all that. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you already talked about some challenges, like maybe with like parents and administration with being a head coach. What do we think some challenges are, maybe, as a head coach on the field?
I mean, coaching is all about relationships, right, with your kids, and being able to coach your kids when you're up big and when you're down big is a huge challenge. Because I feel like a lot of people, if you can understand your X's and O's, it's most coaches can figure out close, tight games. But being able to coach kids when you're winning by a lot and when you're losing by a lot, it can be a challenge. Because kids will push your buttons all the time, want to play different positions, or you're down by a lot and they want to fight and argue and point the finger and this and that, and then those are the tough moments that your true leadership skills like develop. And then probably the other thing I would say is being able to manage a staff throughout the course of a season. We've kind of experienced both sides of the spectrum, where it's just been me and you, and where sometimes we've had too many cooks in the kitchen. And in my short career, I've kind of had that end of it, where we've had a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, where sometimes you got some opinionated coaches who mean well, but don't always maybe know the right time and the right way to say things. So being able to manage adults, not just kids, is a challenge.
You think it'd be easy?
You think it'd be easy, but it's just another step. And especially in game, when everyone's watching and listening, you gotta find the right way to do things and say things and approach people, and mannerisms and all that matters. And that, like, I think those are some of the biggest challenges that I face, and I see other coaches face as well. As I see a kid gets a locked-in penalty for something egregious, and kid goes to the box, and not a single coach goes there and says anything to him, or a kid throws their helmet and they come off the field and coaches don't say anything, or you have assistant coaches argue on the sideline, and it's I know a lot of coaches struggle with that, so it's tough.
Well, a lot of times as a coach, you're just as emotionally invested in the game as the players are.
Right.
But at the same, like you were saying, you have to keep your cool. And even though you're mad about the situation, you can't let the kid know that you're mad about the situation too, and you have to because I mean everyone's looking at you. Yeah, exactly.
Like if you're high, everyone else is high. If you're low, everyone else is kind of low. So yeah, you kind of the head coach sets the tone for the players and for the adults.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So like this is all kind of going into the next question, but how would you say your coaching style or philosophy has changed over the years?
I think I've chilled out a lot over the years, and I think I've just learned to pick my battles. Early on in my career, I'll never forget the moment. We probably haven't talked about this since the day it happened, but it was a JV game in one of our first years together, and it was a JV varsity doubleheader, I believe. And I just lost my cool in the JV game, and I had kind of been on this path, and he kind of pulled me aside and we were chatting afterwards, and he was like, Coach, you gotta chill out. Like I need you, for the varsity, and like. So kind of over the years, I've learned that you have to coach each kid differently, which can be tough. Like there's certain kids that want you to get in their face and want you to hold them accountable, and there's another kid that's you could lose them if you do that, and you just have to. I mean, I talk about relationships. You got to understand each kid. And how to connect with them, and that's something I've learned over the years, that this generation of kids, more than not, don't really like being screamed and yelled at. And some kids still do, and I got that in the tank, right? But a lot of kids just like putting your arm around and pulling them to the side, drawing it up, talking through it, and then you go back at it. That's the way kids are kind of raised today. So I've calmed down a lot over the years, and I think that would be the biggest adjustment from probably year 1 to year 8.
Yeah, but I concur with you 100%, because I know from my experience, like I used to scream at the refs, and then one day I realized, like, 1, it doesn't help. 2, they're not going to change the call. So. And 3, all it's going to do is like they're going to be on the lookout to get rid of me. So over the years, I've calmed down, and my go-to thing now is if I think the ref missed a call, I'll, between whistles, I'll quietly say, hey, I don't agree with you on that one. I think you owe me one. And over the last 5-6 years, I've only had 1 ref push back on that. No, I don't. Oh yeah, you do. But then I realized, like you said, the kids are looking at you, and if you lose your cool, then the game's going to get out of hand as well.
And one of the things I've started saying to refs over the years is just please explain to me what you saw. Don't, I know the call you made, but explain to me what you saw. And that has kind of helped, but that's probably something I need to improve a little bit more. I might need to learn that.